Welcome, everybody, to another great CEO podcast. I have with me another great CEO that we're going to chat with, Donnell from Freestar. Welcome, Kurt.
Hey, thanks so much, Jim. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
Why don't we get started by getting to know you and your company a little bit? Give us a few sentences on like you and a little bit on what your company, Freestar, does.
Yeah, I'm Kurt Donnell. I'm the CEO at Freestar. I've been here for about 4.5 years. Lucky enough to, I guess, be a hired gun CEO. There was two founders that had started the business, had a lot of success, and was lucky enough to jump on board when they were looking for somebody to kind of lead the next stage of growth. Freestar helps publishers, digital media publishers, optimize the revenue on their websites. They kind of outsource the entire revenue function to us so they can focus on the content, audience development side of things, and we run all the ads for them. So bit of a little niche business, but it's been a lot of fun and growing like crazy, which is great.
Interesting. So there are, I'm thinking about Google Ads and some other sort of automated serving technologies, probably less
Sure.
sophisticated. But so what gives you an advantage in this? It feels like something that maybe exists, and maybe there's some other competitors. Why do people use you for this particular service?
Yeah, so the digital advertising space has gotten much more complex over
Right.
time. It used to be there was only a few buyers of the ads. Google still is the largest buyer of ads. And if you're a website publisher, you can just use the one Google
Right.
product, but there's something now called header bidding. It's been around for a while, but it allows multiple bidders to come in and bid simultaneously for the same impression, basically
Mm.
your eyeballs on that page at that moment in real time. So in a matter of milliseconds, we run an auction and invite anywhere from 10 to 20 different bidders into that auction who was willing to pay the most for your eyeballs at that moment. And that value is going to change over time, depending on sort of your browsing history, context of the page, any number of different things. So if you were on Amazon yesterday, put something in your cart, abandon your cart, you're really valuable to Amazon. Once you check out there, you're less valuable to them. But you were on Ford configuring that new Bronco last night, then you're more valuable to Ford. And so on it kind of goes there. So where our technology lives is on the page. We physically run those auctions, but then we sort of dynamically select who are the right bidders that we should invite to this auction. What are the floor prices that we should set for them? How long should we give them to bid to make sure we're optimizing sort of the amount of bids we get, but then also displaying the ads before people navigate away from that page or something like that. So a bunch of different levers we can pull to help increase yield. And then kind of given the scale we're at, we reach about 70% of the US internet every month. We're able to negotiate better deals with those buyers in
Right.
terms of what they're paying us. So a host of different things we take care of for folks, but that is kind of the gist of it, is optimizing the revenue through that auction.
So I actually auctioned at the level of the individual, like me. I got a high
Down to
net
the
worth
each.
guy who's this age and this geography, who's looking for a car, who's blah 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 blah, who's previously
Yep.
searched these four websites, and then you auction that off. Wow.
Yeah, every single impression. So every one of those ads you see across the site is a different auction that's run to see who's willing to pay the most at that exact moment in time. It's pretty wild, kind of high frequency trading, like, if you will.
Yeah, basically that's it. So do you have competitors? Why you? I mean, it sounds super sophisticated. Maybe there
We
aren't any.
do.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
why
So
do people
there's
pick you?
a number of folks in the, it's kind of called ad management is
Yep.
the term for it. We've really carved our niche in kind of the mid-sized to enterprise publisher space, working with folks like Reuters and Al Jazeera, Warner Music, Fanatics, JCPenney and Sears on the e-commerce side of things, and then a bunch of sites you've probably never heard of that are even larger than those. Like I said, we reach by 70% of the US internet, run 15 to 20 billion of these auctions every month. So I've reached the scale where we've covered a niche is being a little more custom solution oriented for some of these bigger publishers where they're not just cookie cutters and it's the same layout. And we've, with that, built some really solid white glove service. I'm a big believer in, if you take care of your people, you take care of your customers, a lot of the rest of it takes care of itself. So we've really leaned into the people side of this business, despite it being very tech focused.
Right.
We focus on being there as that kind of extension of their team, that advocate for them in the market. And we're really working side by side with our customers. So, working with the larger accounts allows you to sort of put the resources you need against that from a staffing standpoint. And then it
Hmm.
kind of becomes the flywheel that keeps things going.
Love it. Now, in that, are these contractual? What percentage of your revenue recurs every year?
Yeah, it's not a SaaS business. It's a revenue share model where,
Right.
we collect the full dollar and then pay out a
Right.
majority of that to the publisher, keep our cut there. It's not technically a SaaS business, but the metrics are very SaaS like, high 90s retention rate. actually, unlike SaaS, we actually grow our customers over time, because as we increase their revenue, we're able to increase what they do with us on an annual basis. So even net of churn, we're, well north of 100% revenue retention on an annual basis, because we're able to grow customers year over year.
And once you've got the website that you are managing the ad, that's basically the contract. That's the control point in this thing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So they've essentially hired us, typically kind of annual recurring contracts to
Perfect.
take care of this for them over time.
Got it. Awesome. Um, and then, in every business, there's a kink in the hose, a point of constraint. Like, boy, if I could change this one thing, this
Yeah,
business gets like even better. It's a great business, obviously. It gets even better. What's the
sure.
point of constraint for you? What's the thing that, man, if I had a magic wand, bam, that would be the thing I'd change.
Yeah, I think finding incredible business development folks that can sell this. It's a rather unique solution. I don't know any
Yeah.
other industries outside of digital publishing where they outsource their revenue function.
Yeah.
And with that, though, the sales cycle is kind of interesting, where you're talking to website owner and you're like, I know Google's been paying you, but trust me, we'll do a better job and I'll pay you at the end of the month. I swear.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, it's a tough
With
sell,
this
right?
face
People
live. Right.
exactly. Yeah. I was going to say, in that ad targeting, like, they know you're very good looking, of course. So they would add that into the things
Yeah, of
they're
course.
trying to find, right? Um, but I think it's just finding the people that can be that really consultative seller and overcome those objections and figure out how you connect with somebody and answer their questions. I think every business can always get better with business development folks, but it's maybe a little less templatized than some businesses, given the
Yeah.
nature of the sale. So our BD team is great. I wish I could just duplicate some folks on that team so we had
Yeah.
more of them.
It's always hard as you grow, when the model is a talent driven model where we got to hire
Yeah.
sort of superhuman men and women. And then we go, well, now we need more of them. You're like, it's a tough
Yeah.
model. You have to systematize it at a level that you can hire normal human beings to go to the next level. So that
We're
may
in the
be the angle, right?
in the midst of that. I'm lucky that one of our two co-founders is probably the single best BD person I've ever met in my life, and is great at building relationships. And so trying to translate some of his superpowers into repeatable things is not easy, but actually something we're working on pretty actively right now.
Awesome. Cool. So how many hours a week do you work nowadays?
Depends. It's probably 50-ish, one side or the other of that, depending on the week and travel and all of those things. I guess if you count travel, it's often well more than that. But then there's some weeks where, it's a little bit lighter. My kids, I'm lucky, play a bunch of sports. So I actually tend to wrap up a little bit earlier to get them to practice and things, and then log back on later in the evening after they're in bed and take care of things. I'm a bit of a night owl, so I actually don't mind working from like 10 to midnight or 1. I can just
Yeah.
peacefully get my things done and think a little bit more. But it really ebbs and flows. There's not any one day that really looks the same.
Got it. Where do you allocate your time within the business then? Of the
Yeah.
50-ish plus or minus, where does that go to? What do you focus on?
Let's say internal meetings are probably half of that, or 40% of that. Obviously working with our executive team and one-on-ones. Another 5 to 10 hours are probably external meetings, depending on whatever is going on. I've been lucky enough to get involved in a couple CEO groups that, kind of the professional development side of things with a coach, and some things that have been really good. I've realized that investing in yourself really pays dividends over time. And I get a little bit wiser, and then I can spread that to the other people on the team, and there's a cascading impact there. So I would say I've been spending a little bit more time on that stuff lately. It's not every week, but a few hours every other week on that type of thing. And then putting out the fires, there's always fires. I feel like some way or another, that's another 10 hours a week of figuring things out. And then budgeting and the board and the banks and all of those things kind of rotate through depending on what's going on.
Seasonal, yeah. So, yeah, as you grow, one of the things we have to do is sort of shed some responsibilities. Can you name one major responsibility you've delegated, sort of taken off your plate in the last 6 months?
Yeah, I played CFO in addition to CEO up until last October or September. We hired a CFO, and we had a head of finance that was good, but I was still leading a lot of the charge on budgeting and sort of some of the analysis on things. So it's been really nice to bring in a seasoned CFO that, just from a bandwidth standpoint, had the ability to take these things over. We just kind of got through our second half planning and everything. It was so nice to be the reviewer of that,
Yeah,
not the
right.
preparer of that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's a major one. I think in general, I've just been trying to give away various Legos and pass things down to other folks in smaller ways of leading, not the executive team meeting, but the senior team meeting, I no longer do that. And it's just little things along the way to try to pass that down and let other people, A, get the chance to grow, but B, clear up my schedule to hopefully do the higher and better use things when possible.
Perfect. That's it. So what would you, if people were to characterize your CEO style, your leadership style, what would be the one or two things they would point to and say, this is Kurt, these couple of things define him?
I think that I'm pretty human, I guess, and approachable and everything. I mean, I tell the company this and I mean it. My door is always open virtually. We're 100% remote, but people actually take me up on it at all levels of the organization to call me or Slack me or text me or whatever when they want to talk about something. We really have a culture of getting 1% better every week. Like, I'm a big believer in that and the incremental change. So I ask people to always have their eyes open and always ask why whenever they're told something, and kind of dig into that. And if the answer is ever we've always done it that way, it's the wrong answer. It has to be because we took it apart 6 months ago, put it back together this way because it was more efficient and everything. And so we've kind of bred that into the business, and in the best way people feel comfortable coming to me to share ideas and observations and things like that. So hopefully approachability is a piece of it. And then I guess just fairly multifaceted. Like I said, I sort of played CFO. I used to be a lawyer, so I was general counsel for a while. I think I play therapist sometimes too. I've
Yeah,
gotten pretty decent at that. And so I think it's just the ability to kind of wear all of the hats and pitch in and help in various elements of the business. I'm not, a technical co-founder type person where I sort of sit just in the engineering team. I can kind of help across the board.
got it. That's cool. And then last question, what do you do for fun?
Too many kids sports, but I love that. I'm on the sideline, 7 to 12 games a weekend usually, which I love, but
What
personally
sport?
love to get.
What
What'd
sports?
you say?
What sports?
My son, baseball and basketball, my daughter, soccer, basketball and volleyball. So
Cool.
lot going on, which is good. Wouldn't have it any other way. For more the personal side of things, big golfer, love to do that. I live in Scottsdale, so got some very good things in my backyard. Love to get outside and hike, and a lot of travel. We've gotten our kids both. We're on 6 continents by the age of 6. We're very proud of that
Wow,
stat. So we like to go see the world whenever we get a chance.
that's awesome. That's great. Well, sounds great. Yeah, Kurt, this was awesome. Really transparent and human, and it was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Indeed, Jim. Hey, thanks so much for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.